okay, you're saying something that's actually factually inaccurate,
right,
according to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird going on with it.
In a jaw-dropping twist, Joe Rogan just dropped a bomb that has everyone talking. On his podcast, Rogan straight up said he doesn't fully believe the official version of what happened to Charlie Kirk, calling the whole situation strange, messy, and full of unanswered questions. He pointed out a series of odd details that social media can't stop dissecting, from confusing reports about a decoy suspect to inconsistent timelines that just don't line up. Something about this story feels off, he said, shaking the internet awake overnight. And he wasn't the only one. The moment Rogan spoke, hashtags exploded. Comment sections flooded. People began asking why certain facts seemed to shift, and whether something deeper might still be missing from the public picture. His remark, "This story has more holes than Swiss cheese," instantly became the quote of the week, repeated everywhere from TikTok edits to late-night Twitter threads. Now, what started as a tragedy has spiraled into a full-blown conversation about truth, trust, and the narratives we're told. The incident involving Charlie Kirk, during a public appearance in Utah earlier this September, left millions stunned and searching for answers. Within hours, online communities were spinning with theories, timelines, and emotional reactions, as the official updates struggled to keep up with the wildfire of speculation. When Joe Rogan finally said out loud what millions were already whispering, that something about this case just doesn't add up.
I almost texted you when the Charlie Kirk thing happened because my antennas went up about, they showed the photo of that kid, or the guy that they have, the 22-year-old,
yeah,
whatever. And I was almost gonna be like, dude.
And that one line, it flipped the internet upside down. Within hours, timelines turned into detective boards. Clips, screenshots, and wild Reddit threads started flooding in as everyone tried to connect the dots. Rogan had raised a storm, pointing out a string of confusing, unexplained details that didn't seem to line up with what the public had been told. He spoke about reports of a so-called decoy suspect, a detail that instantly became the internet's new obsession. That one phrase made people question everything. Not just the story itself, but how much of it the public was ever meant to know. And then came the biggest question mark, the supposed weapon. Rogan's tone was half disbelief, half concern. He questioned how something described as a century-old restored piece could appear so modern in early online photos. Viewers picked up on his tone, some laughing, some uneasy, as social media started dissecting every frame.
This kid had a rifle with a scope. Now, here's where it gets weird. The first images of this rifle with a scope, I swear to God, it looks like he has a composite stock on it. Like it looks like a modern 30-06 rifle.
And just as the internet thought it couldn't get any wilder, boom, another voice dropped into the chaos. Candace Owens. She didn't just join the conversation, she lit it on fire. Over the weekend, she hinted that she'd come across new information about the case. And when she spoke, her words sent social media spiraling. According to her followers, Candace suggested that parts of the public narrative might not match the facts, sparking an online meltdown of theories, reactions, and furious debates. She didn't just question the story, she cracked it open. Her comments about possible political layers and hidden motives instantly went viral, with thousands reposting clips, quoting her lines, and building timelines to trace what she meant. Within hours, the internet wasn't just reacting, it was exploding. Now the question wasn't simply what happened, but how deep does this go? And then, Candace took it even further. In her latest stream, she dropped claims so bold they sent the internet into meltdown mode. She questioned the official explanation entirely, saying too many puzzle pieces simply don't fit. And when she said that, it felt like a switch flipped online. Hashtags exploded.
There was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? He took his pants down. This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place. And then he did this at this thing.
Quickly from public updates. Then came the list of inconsistencies that had everyone buzzing. Candace pointed to confusing details, like messages that didn't sound like the suspect's usual tone, wording that felt strangely formal, and timelines that left more questions than answers. Her tone wasn't accusatory. It was incredulous, as if she couldn't believe how many gaps the public was being asked to accept. She also raised eyebrows by questioning reports about the alleged weapon, suggesting that early descriptions didn't match later images circulating online. That alone set off a frenzy of comparisons and digital frame-by-frame breakdowns by fans trying to make sense of what they were seeing. But the moment that really shook her audience was when she described how the suspect supposedly surrendered. According to her interpretation, the story about how it all happened just didn't add up, and that single doubt spread like wildfire. Within hours, users across TikTok, X, and Reddit were dissecting every version of events, hunting for contradictions, trying to decide what to believe. For some, her comments felt like a wake-up call. For others, it was pure controversy. Either way, the internet was hooked, trapped between disbelief and obsession, watching a story that refuses to settle and keeps pulling everyone deeper by the hour. And just when her followers thought the story couldn't get any darker, Candace dropped another bombshell. She reminded her audience of something that many had forgotten. Just a week before the tragedy, Charlie Kirk had reportedly announced a major internal audit inside Turning Point USA. That announcement, according to online discussions, sparked endless speculation. Some users claimed the audit was designed to examine unexplained divisions within the organization. Departments few had ever heard of, handling large sums of donor funding. Whether that's true or not, the internet ran with it. Posts, theories, and late-night breakdowns flooded every corner of social media. For many viewers, it wasn't just about numbers anymore. It was about what that audit might have revealed if it had gone public. Candace's comments, paired with Joe Rogan's earlier skepticism, sent the entire case spiraling into chaos online. Together, their voices lit up timelines like fireworks, turning a single incident into one of the most debated mysteries on the internet. Thousands of people began posting their own takes, dissecting timelines, comparing interviews, and asking whether this story was really as straightforward as it seemed. And Joe? He wasn't finished, not even close. On his next podcast, he dove even deeper, revisiting the strangest details surrounding the case. He questioned the conflicting reports about the alleged weapon, the timeline, and the inconsistencies that fans had already been picking apart frame by frame. But one thing in particular had everyone talking: a so-called decoy witness, whose odd behavior during the event instantly became viral fuel for conspiracy threads. According to online chatter, this mysterious individual appeared erratic and unpredictable, sparking endless questions about who he was and why he acted the way he did. Within hours, hashtags exploded. The decoy man, what really happened, audit theory, each thread more chaotic than the last. Some users pointed out that reports about this person seemed to vanish quickly from the headlines, adding yet another layer of mystery to an already tangled story. By this point, the internet was no longer following a case, it was living inside it. A swirl of curiosity, confusion, and obsession, where every new rumor felt like a clue, and every unanswered question pulled the audience a little deeper into the storm. That's right, the same face appearing in the background of more than one national tragedy. Coincidence? Maybe. But for millions online, it's just too strange to ignore. The thought that one mysterious figure could show up again and again in moments of chaos has the internet absolutely losing its mind. What are the odds? One user wrote. And that question became the spark that lit another wildfire of theories. Social media feeds turned into investigation boards overnight. People started comparing old footage, screenshots, and public photos, convinced there had to be a hidden pattern somewhere. Then came another twist that only fueled the storm. According to online discussions, reports surfaced claiming this same individual was suddenly detained just days after the incident. And that timing alone sent speculation through the roof. Some saw it as a random coincidence, others as something that felt a little too convenient. Rogan, always the skeptic, commented that the sequence of events just didn't feel natural, and millions online agreed. From YouTube breakdowns to Reddit deep dives, users began picking apart every frame, every quote, every timestamp, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. For some, it became proof that the story had gaps. For others, it was simply another layer in a mystery that refuses to stay quiet. Now, this so-called decoy theory has taken on a life of its own, haunting, polarizing, impossible to escape. To some, it highlights unanswered questions that still linger. To others, it's just the internet doing what it does best, searching for meaning in chaos. Either way, one feeling remains constant. Something about this whole situation just doesn't sit right. And that's why the question echoing across every platform tonight isn't just what happened, it's what aren't we being told. The so-called decoy theory lit up the internet, but what came next sent the entire story spinning into a new dimension of chaos. Investigators may have officially closed their case, but for the public, the search for answers had only just begun. Online detectives, podcasters, and digital truth seekers went into overdrive, digging through every clip, every timeline, every rumor they could find. And what they started uncovering wasn't about the event itself anymore. It was about what might have been happening behind the scenes. That's where things took a darker turn. According to viral discussions online, attention has now shifted toward Turning Point USA and what insiders say was a major internal audit ordered by Charlie Kirk just a week before the tragedy. That single detail, mentioned first by Candace Owens during one of her broadcasts, ignited a digital wildfire. Viewers flooded comment sections and message boards, asking the same question: what exactly was being audited, and why now? From there, the story snowballed. Anonymous posts began circulating, claiming the audit was meant to examine a quiet department within the organization, one allegedly managing large donor funds and confidential outreach operations. Theories suggested this wasn't just about numbers. It was about power, control, and loyalty. Social media threads lit up with speculation. Was this audit uncovering financial mismanagement, or was it simply a routine review blown out of proportion by the internet? Nobody really knew, but that didn't stop the chaos. Some users even pointed out that a few staff members reportedly resigned around the same time. Silent exits, no statements, no press releases. By then, timelines were being redrawn, screenshots shared, and whispers of something bigger began spreading like wildfire. To some, it was a sign of coincidence. To others, it was the beginning of a much deeper story still waiting to be told. And then came the detail that froze the internet. One of the names that quietly left the organization later resurfaced in a lobbying firm tied to government contracts. The timing felt too perfect to ignore, and that's where the online suspicion exploded. When Candace Owens went live again, her words sent shockwaves across every platform. "You don't clean house a week before something like that unless something big was coming," she said, and viewers swore they could feel the chill through their screens. Her tone wasn't loud, it was sharp, deliberate, the kind that makes you stop scrolling. To her followers, she was connecting dots others had missed. She hinted that what happened might not have been random, that there were patterns, decisions, and timing that felt strategic. And when Candace speaks in that tone, people listen. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan kept the fire alive on his podcast. After hearing her remarks, he revisited the entire situation, this time focusing on how fast the official version had formed. He noted how, within hours of the event, names, images, and alleged motives had already been released, even before any full investigation could have concluded. "It's like the narrative was written before it even began," he said, a line that instantly became one of the most replayed quotes of the week. That idea, that the story might have been too neatly packaged, became the heartbeat of online discussion. TikTok threads, Reddit posts, and Telegram channels overflowed with comparisons, frame-by-frame breakdowns, and amateur analyses. Viewers claimed to see mismatched timestamps, strange lighting differences, and inconsistencies in early reports. Whether true or not, it fed the collective obsession, and the rabbit hole just kept getting deeper. But the question haunting everyone wasn't about a timeline or a photo. It was the why. Why now? Why there? Why him? Across every corner of the internet, people started asking the same thing. Was this all coincidence, or was it meant to send a message? Adding to the tension, new claims began circulating online. Anonymous posts suggesting that right before his final public Q&A, Charlie Kirk appeared unusually tense. A student who attended said he kept glancing toward the exits as if expecting someone to arrive. That tiny observation, barely noticed at the time, has now become one of the internet's most viral talking points tied to the incident. And it didn't stop there. Several audience members later described seeing unfamiliar men near the back of the auditorium, wearing plain clothes and discreet earpieces. They weren't recognized as campus staff or local security, and according to those accounts, they disappeared moments after the chaos unfolded. That single detail, repeated across countless posts and comment threads, set social media ablaze with speculation. Then came what the internet now calls the missing suspect theory. A supposed excerpt from a local police radio log began circulating online, hinting that early reports might have described two individuals, not one. Within an hour, one was cleared, but the other was never publicly identified. That claim, though unverified, spread like wildfire, especially after users posted screenshots said to be from the original dispatch feed. For many online, it felt like a missing piece that didn't quite fit the official picture. Candace Owens addressed the rumor in one of her live streams, shaking her head as she said, "It feels like we're watching a movie play out in real time, and they expect us not to notice the plot holes." Her tone was sharp, deliberate, and it hit millions of viewers instantly. The chat section erupted. Some called her brave for questioning the inconsistencies. Others urged her to stay careful, worried the story was spiraling too far. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's community took things even further. Fans and independent researchers began cross-referencing public databases, claiming certain case files were suddenly marked confidential. No one knows what that means, but online, it only fueled the storm. Screenshots, timelines, and theories started to merge into one giant investigation that the internet itself refuses to let go of. Then came the twist that made the internet shiver. Reports claimed that even the ballistic documents, normally public record, were suddenly classified within just 72 hours. That single detail reignited everything. Joe Rogan's comment echoed across every platform. When evidence disappears that fast, people start wondering what's really being hidden. And just like that, the firestorm was back. Online investigators began comparing patterns, not just in this case, but across other high-profile controversies where public figures had clashed with their own circles or questioned financial power structures. Threads popped up drawing eerie parallels to past whistleblower scandals, and the tone across online communities shifted from curiosity to outright unease. The deeper people dug, the stranger it got. Screenshots started circulating showing that certain mainstream headlines had been quietly edited or replaced. Phrases like "confirmed suspect" were suddenly softened to "under investigation," and every subtle change only made the speculation worse. Why rewrite the story if there's nothing to hide? One viral tweet asked, capturing millions of views overnight. And then came the silence, the kind that feels too deliberate to ignore. Turning Point USA, after releasing a brief public statement mourning Charlie, has remained completely quiet. No updates, no mentions of the audit, no comment about the sealed files or the so-called decoy theory. Nothing. To many online observers, that silence spoke louder than any press conference ever could. Right now, the official narrative looks fractured, like a mirror cracked down the middle. Pieces of truth scattered among half-explanations, timelines that don't line up, and questions that refuse to fade. Between Rogan's ongoing skepticism and Candace Owens' relentless commentary, the internet has turned this story into a global obsession. Each day, the contradictions grow louder. Each post adds another layer of confusion, and the collective feeling spreading online is simple. Something about this entire situation just doesn't feel right. Because now it's not just about one event anymore. It's about what happens when power, money, and truth collide in front of the entire world. And just when people thought it couldn't get darker, a new wave of rumors hit. This time, about his wife. After Charlie's passing, his wife quietly stepped into his former role as CEO of Turning Point USA. And that's when the internet erupted. Was this a grieving widow trying to continue her husband's legacy? Or, as some online voices suggested, a power shift that had been planned long before the tragedy? Across social media, theories began to swirl. Commentators pointed to her long-standing political connections and questioned whether her sudden promotion was coincidence or strategy. Old photos, screenshots, and so-called insider messages started circulating again, each one adding more fuel to the digital firestorm. The timing became the center of debate. Viewers zoomed in on one specific detail: a memo Charlie reportedly signed on September 2nd, just days before everything changed. In that document, he named Justin Stray as the new COO and assigned him to lead the DOG initiative, a massive internal audit meant to track financial inefficiencies and trace millions in donor funds. According to online chatter, this audit could have reshaped the organization from the inside out. And when people noticed that Charlie's passing came less than a week later, the speculation only intensified. Comments flooded in. Was it all connected? Did he know too much? Was this timing just a coincidence? No one had the answers, but the questions wouldn't stop. Then came Candace Owens, throwing gasoline on the already raging discussion. She suggested on her platform that Charlie had been under heavy political and financial pressure in the weeks before his death, hinting at internal tensions and outside influence. Her remarks reignited every corner of the internet, with people debating whether powerful figures might have wanted to silence his leadership direction. Of course, not everyone agreed. Those close to the situation publicly denied those claims, calling them exaggerated and unfounded. Still, the controversy refused to fade, especially as attention began shifting toward Charlie's widow. Her calm, collected demeanor at the memorial became a viral talking point. Clips of her composed expression flooded TikTok and YouTube, with users debating whether it showed strength or something more complex. There was no evidence of wrongdoing, but online, perception moves faster than proof. And when she returned to work shortly after, the internet couldn't stop talking. For many, the story stopped feeling like closure and started feeling like the beginning of something much bigger. Now, the story feels less like tragedy and more like strategy, a tangled web of money, influence, and mystery that seems to grow darker by the day. For many, this has become the most haunting chapter yet, a mix of confusion, suspicion, and questions no one can seem to answer. Was Charlie's widow unfairly targeted by an internet desperate for answers? Or is there still more to this story than meets the eye? That question alone has split the internet in half. As Joe Rogan and Candace Owens keep reminding their audiences, the timeline surrounding the case is filled with odd gaps and unanswered moments. The footage, the files, the leadership changes, none of it fits neatly together. And that's exactly why online investigators can't stop digging. Every new clip, leak, or rumor seems to add another layer to the puzzle. Some say it's coincidence. Others think it's chaos by design, a smokescreen that keeps the truth forever out of reach. Whatever the case, one thing's clear. This story has stopped being just about one event. It's become a reflection of something far bigger, where power, money, and silence collide. So, what do you think? Is this simply a tragedy or the start of something much deeper? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next chapter in this unfolding mystery.